Hello, and welcome to another episode of the M42 Adventures podcast. I am your host, Rick Trimmer. And today we have a gentleman on. His name is Trent Seegmiller. And I don't know much about him. He's actually a family member of yours, right, Chase?
Yeah, he's my cousin, first cousin.
First cousin. I know that he is was in the Air Force Special Forces. So he's a bad A, right? We all know that immediately. And he has a company called One's Ready. So that's all I know. So we're going to find out together what exactly Trent does and what he's all about. So stay tuned. Let's get into this conversation. That's what we do. And then I'll do an intro, outro, So yeah, man, nice to meet you. So Trent, right? Seegmiller,
Yep.
related to this guy here, Chase.
I mean, yeah.
He doesn't want to admit that.
Yeah, I was going to say the last name, man, it just gets you.
And then they know you're related.
Yeah, then they know.
There's no escaping it.
That's right. So nice to meet you, man. Yeah, we've been trying to do this one for a while. You've been getting pulled away, right? You've got a lot going on.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things. You retire from the military and you're like, I'm going to have all this time on my hands. And you get another job and all your hobbies, all the things that you've been putting off for doing for like 20 years. And you start doing them all at once and then you have no time and it's tough.
Yeah. So tell me, so I don't know, like I said, I just said to Chase, what am I getting into? And he said, One's Ready, right? That's the name of your business.
Yes.
One's Ready or One?
Yes.
Okay.
Ready. So it comes from the Air Force Special Operations community, the ground pounding part of it. In our pipelines, we do a lot of pool training and other things. We line up the students and we number them, and so there's a group number one. And when you're the sergeant on the deck, you say One's Ready, and all those students that are number one say one sergeant or whatever number they're on, and they go. So
that's how you start. I love it.
Right. So when we started a podcast to let people know about the Air Force Special Warfare Special Operations community, because it's pretty small and a lot of people haven't heard of it, it seemed like the thing to name it.
So what do you mean as far as letting people know about the community? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, are you spilling some classified secrets, or is it just kind of?
And you would think it was classified by how few people know about it, right?
Yeah.
Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Army Rangers, even the Marine Corps MARSOC guys, they're special operations guys now. Most people have heard of these people. Then when we talk about Air Force Special Operations, it's a little more complicated the way that we are, because we just operate in a different way. Traditionally in the global war on terror, we were enablers, right? So like there'd be like one or two of us with a team of Green Berets or SEALs or other things.
Interesting.
But like people just don't know that we exist.
What's Air Force called? What is it called?
Well, so that's why it's complicated. So like
we
have under the special warfare umbrella in the Air Force, we have pararescue, combat control, special reconnaissance, and the TACPs. But only two of those career fields are always special operations, and two of them go regular side and special operations. So it's a little weird.
Yeah, why is that? Because like you said, Rangers are what, Army? You have to tell me what they all are. The
right.
SEALs are Navy.
Yes. Green Berets, the Special Forces, those are Army, right? Okay. And you have your MARSOC, your Marine Special Operations guys. And then with the Navy too, you have your boat guys, your SWIT guys that work with the SEALs, and they're pretty awesome.
Okay,
I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but
so sorry. You was one of them? You was an Air Force Special Ops guy?
Yeah.
Or what?
Yeah, so like I came when I left, I was I was on the training side for the Special Reconnaissance career field. We're the smallest career field, so we obviously have friends though. So if someone was like, "Hey, you want to do a podcast talking about this stuff?" It's like, yeah, let's do it.
I love it. How long you been doing it?
Been doing the podcast for about 5 years.
Wow, so that's a long time in podcast world.
How many episodes now?
Dude, I don't know.
100?
A few thousand. I'd have to look it up.
How many do you do a week?
2 to 3.
See, dude, I do one a week, and it's hard for me.
That's where we started, right?
Yeah. One's hard for me. Just but to do 2 or 3, it's I commend that. That's because it's a big deal. People don't understand. Everybody wants to do it. I've had 4 or 5 people start podcasts that I know now that I come from construction, so that's my background. I built up some businesses and then I sold. Do you know anything about me at all?
The construction and adventure stuff. I think Chase gave me a brief background, but
Yeah, so I had some construction companies. I sold them, 60% of them 8 years ago, and I've been traveling the world with my wife and kids for 8 years, full time. So 71 or 73. We were arguing last night about it, but a lot of countries. And so I haven't worked in 8 years. and I came back to have a child. So I just had a little baby girl 5 weeks ago,
Oh,
which
congrats.
is pretty crazy. 4 years old, still going strong.
That's
Um,
great.
and then I've had this idea for M42 Adventures for the last couple of years, and I was like, when am I going to do it? We're traveling, and I thought, well, I'm going home for a year. So I got some partners, and we started this up 11 months ago, and I leave March 4th for 2 more years. So I signed a 1-year contract saying that I would come back, start it, get it going, find somebody to take it over, which is Chase. So
Okay.
Chase is taking it over,
Nice.
and he'll be here every day. And then I'm going to keep doing the podcast from the road is my only obligation. But I love it. It's just one of those things to try to get people out and going on adventures and whatnot. But so with you saying that you've been doing this for 5 years, and that's a big deal. I have a lot of friends who have started podcasts, and what is it? We looked up the statistic. I think 90% don't make it more than 10 episodes.
Something along those lines. I don't know how many.
Yeah.
I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah. So I mean, 5 years, hundreds, thousands of episodes is a big deal, and I'm gonna check it out. I'm excited to go listen.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I think officially like the big ones were like at 433 or something. I don't know if we number the members only episodes.
Yeah.
But I have an advantage over you because we have it's a team. It's myself, a pararescue guy, and a combat controller. And so, we can split the load a little bit. The best, it's funny because in the beginning you love having the guests on. It's a little bit of pressure, but every once in a while now, the three of us will just get on and rap. And we've been like best friends for like 5 years now. We've been working every weekend. And so every once in a while, it's just nice to get on with the boys and talk about whatever you want to talk about. So
I
it's a
think
little bit
so.
different though.
It's therapeutic, and like you said, we just had a guest just leave here, just barely got paralyzed 19 years ago, and he's a public speaker. He came into the office, and it's cool to be able to have these amazing people come. I had Greg Godfrey from Nitro Circus.
Yeah, the
Heard of
name
that?
and Nitro, yeah.
He was here yesterday.
Nice.
And it's like, I told Chase, I'm like, dude, we could just talk to people and ask them. I can ask them anything I want. I can just, it's such a cool thing. But yeah, there is a little bit of pressure, a little bit of, for me, it's more, I haven't worked in 8 years. And so it's having to have a schedule of some kind.
You're married with kids, right? So you
Yeah.
have worked.
Yeah. I haven't made any money.
There you go. Yeah.
Just spent it. Yeah. But no, man. So it's cool to make your acquaintance. So to walk me through kind of One's Ready, what's like a typical, what are you guys talking about? I mean, everything special forces, like give me an insight of how would you sum up One's Ready?
Yeah. So obviously we have a lean, right? We lean towards the Air Force side of the fence. But we've had SEALs, Green Berets, all the guys on, our own Rangers and all those other people. So like anybody that wants to come on, we have kind of an open door policy. If you want to come on the podcast, I don't think we've said no to anybody yet, which, you look back a few years at some of the people that you've had on and then see where they go from there. And you're like, man, I kind of regret that, but that's our policy is we don't say no.
Yeah.
So, and then like our baseline is talking about the special, Air Force special operations stuff. So I came from the training side. So a lot of the folks coming in the door, the attrition rate is ridiculous for our people that go through the selection course the first time. I think we're sitting at about, all told, for all the training pipelines before these folks get onto team, is about 90% of them do not make it.
This is special forces.
Right. Well,
they still make the military, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We're not that picky, right? There's a place for them. It's just 90%. I'm surprised it's that high. I mean, I see some. I was just at Winter Strong. Have you heard of that? Winter Strong. I just went out there a couple weeks ago, and dude, talk about. I'm new to this world again. 10 months. I came from construction, traveling with my family, and then I pop into the podcast world and start making some of these acquaintances. And I'm walking around, and I'm like, man, this is a field, 500 people that are just machines. And there's a lot of Navy SEALs, a lot of those type of people there, and it's like, whoa, these guys are terrifying.
Is that the Burt Soren thing?
Yeah.
The Winter Strong, right?
Yeah.
So Bert, he's one of the guys. No, we're supposed to have him on the podcast, but you know how it is. It's like, it's just sometimes you can make it work and sometimes you can't. And then you lose the thread on somebody. You're like, we'll catch you like in a couple of years,
for
come
sure.
back around scheduling.
He's a stud. He's a good dude.
Yeah. We all hear good things, but yeah. How was Winter Strong? Is it, being around all those people?
It was cool, man. It was intimidating. Like I said, I'm new to this world. And so, I'm learning, I don't know how to say it. I'm trying to say it nicely, but Um, and nothing against Winter Strong or anything like that, but a lot of this world is optics, and so I'm learning how to navigate that. And we had a camera crew with us. I was with Ryan Mickler. Do you know Ryan Mickler with Order of Man? Have you heard of that?
No.
He got a podcast. And so that's how I got invited, was just, friends of a friend. And so it was wild, man. It's being around those people, that caliber of people is intimidating. Down here in Utah, and everybody's got their little story, so I'm like, hey, I retired at 36. I've been traveling. I'm kind of a big deal. And then you walk out there and it's like, whoa, dude, I am, and I don't want to say nothing, but there's some impressive people in this world. And that's like you're saying, those 10% that can make it onto those teams I have a buddy in San Diego. His name's Renz Benton, who his goal in life is he actually tried out for the Marines and didn't make it. I'm not sure why, for the SEALs. I don't know the details. It was something like it was a health problem that he couldn't do it. But his goal in life is to still pass the test on his own.
Right.
Go do it himself, just to know that he could do it. And he's been training. He swam like 430 miles last year.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was the equivalent of San Diego to Utah, which is how I knew how far he had swam. And he's like, dude, you have no idea what these guys do. These guys are just another level of. And so, yeah, being out there at Sorinex and being around those people, I was just walking around like, wow, there are some badasses, and it's scary.
I mean, but like those people though, it's funny because like if you start a podcast and you come from that world and you run into someone like you and you're like, hey man, like I had a bunch of companies, I retired at 36, now I travel the world. We learned a whole lot about what we didn't know about everything when we started the podcast, right? Like, so there's just different mountains to climb. And so, just because they do what they do because they felt a calling, or a lot of us had burned our lives down previously and we had a chip on our shoulder. We wanted to make our fathers proud or do something with our lives, right? Like,
Yeah.
You were highly motivated to not be a loser for the rest of your life, end up in those positions. But, there's different mountains that people climb.
100%. What do you think pushes that 10%? I guess, 100% tried out, but what pushes people to want to be, because my dad was in the military. He passed away at age 28. He was in the Army. He was actually stationed in El Paso and he got just the common cold. It turned into a sinus infection and abscessed into his brain and caused an aneurysm, which is on in whatever, a pretty rare thing. But we were actually just talking about on the last podcast, my first destination, top of my list, my bucket list was I want to travel the world. And I've had that for a long time. And then when I finally was able to financially, the first thing we bought was one-way tickets to Paris. We landed in Paris for about 4 hours and we drove to Normandy. And I spent a week in Normandy with my 2 boys and my wife, and went to all the beaches and to the museums, and I actually started a clothing company in 2012 called Undaunted Apparel.
Yeah.
And it was it's still around. I sold it. But it's called Wear What Matters. And all of our logos and all of our apparel was around soldiers and first responders, and we donate 10% back of every sale to different, we help buy a helicopter in Cedar City and whatever. But I've always been very patriotic. My heroes are military. They really are. And the reason I had the idea for Undaunted Apparel was I thought, we're buying clothes from celebrities and people that just, not that they don't contribute, but they really don't contribute. And we're free, right? Freedom is not free, right? And so I am immediately drawn to the military and respect. And we were talking about it on just this last podcast about, I tell all my boys to, anytime you see any gentleman or any person, a woman with a veteran's hat, to go up there and shake their hands and tell them thank you. You watch all these war movies and it's like, man, the sacrifice that they made is unparalleled in my book, unparalleled. And you guys are the tip of the sword. I mean, the special ops, right? They're kind of the ones that are in and out before. Well, you tell me, but isn't that kind of those are
Yeah.
kind of the tip of the sword?
Yeah, you're out there, but you also spend a lot of time sitting around throwing rocks in a helmet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not all,
yeah.
not all the
It's just like a
movies.
cop, right? Sometimes you get in a high-speed chase, but most of the time it's speeding tickets.
Yeah, yeah, and then there's different guys. Like some of the guys are crap magnets and they can't leave the wire without getting shot at, and then some guys have halos around them and they can go entire rotations. And it's
No
like
way.
I can't
No
get into a
way.
gunfight to to save
Save
my
my
own
life.
life. Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah.
What's it so my first question is then what makes people wanna go into that part of the military? Is it kind of like a macho thing, a pride thing? Is there different reasons?
Different. It's because we ask this all the time, right? And our recruiting folks are always like, "Well, what type of people?" Like, if we could solve this, we could save millions of dollars recruiting the
Yeah.
other 90%, right, and figure
Yeah,
it out.
yeah, good point.
But it's like, yeah, there's a lot of people that come from like lower class or lower middle class that are trying to make something of themselves, and then you also have people that
Pays
have like
better? Is the pay better?
yes, yeah. So you get
Okay,
your special duty pays and
okay,
all that other stuff. But I
okay.
think the pay is just like a byproduct,
For
right? Like,
sure,
yeah, you get paid more, but also it's just,
for
you have a
sure.
little more freedom and all that other stuff after you make it through all the training. But you also have like Ivy League graduated guys that enlist because they want to see what they're made of, or they have a calling, or they have the itch, right? I like to call it the itch. And if you got the itch and then you stay focused and you're not a quitter, there's always the folks that medically out, get injured and all that other stuff, and that's tough to see as an instructor, to have your performers get injured, something outside of their control washes them out of the pipeline. A lot of those folks end up coming back and making it, but most of the folks just quit when they get there, and it's hard to say why because when you're a new instructor, it's funny because you see all these dudes show up on your front porch, and at first you're like, man, I think this guy's gonna make
You
it.
judge them. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure, like, that guy's gonna make it, that guy won't, and it surprises you.
Right.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
But it's
So you
super
haven't
awesome.
come you haven't come down to a denominator that really, I mean, no quit, right? Just no quit is the biggest, is that the number one?
I think team sports help a lot. Wrestlers do very well. A lot of soccer players, because their aerobic capacity, as long as they can get their upper body strength going, they do well. Like lacrosse players, a lot of the skill players and football, maybe not as much. Some of the linemen and some of the other folks tend to do a little bit better. But like wide receivers, I think there's too much glory in it. Because this isn't one of those jobs. It's kind of become one of those things where people recognize it, right? If you're a Navy SEAL, you write a book, you can become famous. But that's just not the reality of it. The reality is that is most of the time you're in the worst places imaginable. You're doing very difficult things, and no one's ever going to hear about it. And so, if you're in it just for recognition, or you're used to all this positive reinforcement, which you are not, definitely not going to get in the pipelines. If that's what you're seeking, that's not what you're going to get. So you have to have that intrinsic motivation. Otherwise, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, that's the thing with, like, a lot of my businesses and things like that. People always say, what is it? How did you do it?" And it's like, I think it's like you're saying, one, your purpose, which I'd lost everything in the recession, was actually homeless,
Jeez,
and,
dude.
I had to move into my grandparents' basement, and anyway, that's a whole nother story, but my purpose after that was defined as my family will never feel this again, like, I'm never gonna be broke again, and that was a purpose that was so deep in me that I still to this day, there'll be days where I just get emotional, when I'm going to buy a steak or something, because there was times where, it got pretty dark. But that and then just no quit, no quit. And so I can't imagine that there's probably a better group of individuals that encompass that than special forces.
I mean, I think success is success, right? And we've had a lot of interesting folks on our podcast, and I'm sure you've spoken to them too. Whether, if you're special operations or if you're whatever leads you to be that person. Like I got a friend that's a dentist here in San Antonio, and he'll be like, "Oh, well, I'm not like you." I'm like, "Bro, you have one of the largest dental practices, like in the city." And like I see how much you work. There's 0 days off. You are the owner. You also do all the work. You do great work. I send my friends to go, to your practice, and everybody comes away happy. I'm like, that mentality is the mentality. Like, just because you didn't feel like, just because you weren't drawn into the military
You didn't fire a
doesn't
gun.
mean right. Yeah, but like that's
Love
what I
that.
wanted to do because it was a lot more fun for me.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
and also
So,
college.
do you
So
see do you see, uh, coming out? Are those is that 10%? So military, explain to me how this works, and maybe people listening know this, but how long do you go into the military for? What is there options?
Yeah.
yes,
So you can do, like, 5 years, 10 years?
So I
How many
think the
years?
Army has even down to like a 3-year commitment, but in the Air
Okay.
Force, when you're first coming in, it's a 4 or 6-year enlistment. And then when you re-up after that, you can re-up up to like another 5 years, depending on when you're re-enlisting. And then if you're trying to maximize your bonus and a bunch of different things go into that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you sign up for like 4 to 6 years at a time every
Okay.
time you re-enlist.
Okay. And so is that the same as Special Forces? Same exact window?
Yep.
So when you have these people that have come in there, and when I mean, I'd imagine Special Forces are probably going to be in there longer than the average person, right? Because it's so hard to get to that. Is that correct to assume?
I think we have better retention. It depends on what's going on though, too, right? Because we attract the folks that want action. And so I think there's different times in history where if you come in
Yeah.
and you're not going to
There's no
start.
war going on.
Yeah, like I'm a very blessed person because like I went on my first deployment and I kind of like knocked all the bucket list things off my items
Where'd you
down.
go?
Afghanistan.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it
I
was a
never
good
know what's
time.
allowed. I want to get you in.
I'm retired now. I can
He's
talk.
well,
Oh.
he's well aware of what
Once you're
saying.
retired, you can just say anything. Can you just?
No, there's still
is there still rules?
yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there?
A little bit.
Oh, is there? What do they do if you talk about it? They just come arrest you?
I mean, you could get fined or arrested or whatever,
Okay.
depending on what you put out there. Like I never worked with like most of the classification stuff, especially when you're downrange, on the operation side doing what I was doing or what most of us were doing it's just time sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And and your tactics, techniques, and procedures. There are certain things that there are still certain things now that I probably could talk about that I won't,
Right.
just because you sign a few papers and
When you still care about your country too, right? You still want
right,
to be, protected somewhat, right?
yeah.
So when did you sign up? How old were you?
I was 20 years old, so I turned 21 in basic training because by that time I'd finished burning my life to the ground and making poor decisions, and I needed to make something of myself.
Dumpster fire.
So you just knew that and that's and I've never thought about the military. That's a weird thing for me to think because I love and I think they're our heroes and I respect them. But for me, it was never an option. It was just never. I've always been afraid of it because I don't like being told what to do. I'm very, very bad about that. I just thought, man, I'll struggle with that. But at the same time, what's that?
Funny story. I also do not like being told what to do.
Really?
So my father has 6 kids, 6 boys, and 3 of us ended up in the Air Force. And my dad loves to tell this story. He goes, of all of you guys that joined the Air Force, he's like the one that I would have picked to not be successful is this guy right here.
Really?
But like
Why?
I found my place, right? Because I ended up
because you were such a putz up until 20. Is that why?
yeah. I mean, I'm a stubborn person. I'm a stubborn person that doesn't want to do what other people tell me to do, right?
That's interesting, and that you would go sign up.
Well, and I also
You
I was
needed
trying to do
that?
things. I'm sorry.
You just knew you needed that. You just knew like
No,
you burned it down, so I might as well try something different. Or what made you go down and sign up?
my dad actually told me. So my older brother had signed up for the Air Force a little bit before I did, and then I was having a conversation with my dad because I was, on the verge of not having a place to live or any money and all that other stuff. And he had been in the Air Force for 4 years back in the day.
Okay.
Instead of being drafted, he enlisted, and then. And I think he was just trying to save me, and he figured I'd do like 4 years and get out, and I'd probably hate it. But he's like, "Man, this is kind of like a good transition period, a good transition program to get you into adulthood and give you some discipline, all the things I needed." And he'd always kind of like barred us from joining before that, and now he was kind of encouraging it. And I was like, it's kind of like when he said it, when that like switch goes off in your brain. Like I
Yeah.
kind of always have wanted to do this, and now I have permission from my old man, and also, yeah, I always wanted to. So I was
Why
like,
did he
yeah.
bar you? Why did he not want you to in the beginning?
Because I mean, we talk about people that don't like being told what to do. I don't know if you've met a few Segmillers now, but
Yeah.
we're not always the
I was
easiest to
pacing
get along with.
to do this morning, and I thought when I hung up, I thought, I bet he wants to kill me. Did you?
Right.
No,
Oh.
no. But at the same time, I was like,
Yeah.
I got stuff I'm
Good.
doing.
Yeah, and that's good. And that's good. Yeah. Yeah. So he was bad about that, huh? So did he struggle in the military then?
Yeah.
I mean, if he
yeah.
did 4 years, he got out as fast as you can.
Yep. He met my mom and he got out and they got married. But yeah, he was at least I was like, well, you guys need to be officers. You got to go get your degree first if you're going to be an officer. And I tried the college thing. I wasn't good at it. I had no discipline. I didn't want to learn what they were trying to teach me. Anyway, so all that he gave me permission and I joined. And a funny thing happened because I got there. And one of the good things about having burned my life down previously, and I think you'll appreciate this, is, man, I'm getting 3 meals a day. I'm a young guy. I grew up playing soccer, so I'm in pretty good shape. The physical stuff, it's the Air Force basic training. It's not hard, like it's not. And you know, I get these 18-year-olds with me straight out of high school, and they're complaining, and I'm just like, guys, like this is not bad. Like I've had a whole pile of jobs, and this is not the worst one. Just letting
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so I think my mindset was just a little bit different. And I noticed like, you know, that freedom through discipline thing started to kick in. And I really bought into all the low level military stuff, like the uniform, the haircut, you know, marching a certain way and starting to take pride in it. I noticed that the more I bought in, the more pride I had in myself and the more confidence I had, which eventually led me to believing that I could do this stupid thing that I ended up doing.
So that's an interesting thing that I've never thought about because again, like I said, I've always this is a statement, and this may be offensive. I don't think it will be, but we go to Hawaii a lot, and there's a lot of military bases there, and I always and my mom is, you know, she married my dad. She went to like Korea, I mean, all over the world for a decade, to different bases and stuff with him, and so she's very patriotic. And I would always say to my mom, you know, are those fences, the barbed wire fences around the base, are they keeping us out or them in? You
Yes.
know, and that's how I look at it, really, you know, I'm like, is it a prison or is it not? And that's just to be honest.
Probably both. A little bit both.
Is that
Yeah.
offensive? Did I offend you?
Is offensive a pun?
I like it. I like it. So, but my question is, and you just said something there where, because I did college and I didn't do very well at college. I went, but I didn't know what else to do. And I was kind of just fumbling. You're at an age where you're like, what the hell am I going to do for a career? You know, they kind of kick you out of the nest and it's like some people fly, but I fell and hit the ground, you know, and
That was a good image.
yeah. And so, but I've never thought about the military as, because it's a school, right? It's just like college in a way, but I've never thought about it because I have 3 boys that are 13, 10, and 4. And I encourage them to be entrepreneurs and things like that just because of my personality. But like my middle child, he's a little hellion. He's 10 and he's just crazy. And I'm like, man, you probably need the military. And I don't really know what I'm saying because I don't know enough about it, but I know that there's structure there. I know that there's discipline. And so, you know, and I've always said like, oh, that guy probably needed the military. But it's interesting for you to say because you didn't do well at college. You said that. You struggled at college, but then you flourished in the military. The differences were this one had structure, this one had what was the difference? Why would you fail in one and not the other? Can you explain that?
I mean, I'm not sure the physical component, the challenges.
It's almost like one is
Too easy.
well, not even too easy, but it's more for me college was I had to initiate it. I had to go cook my meals. I had to go wash my clothes. I had to go to class. I had to take the test. And I think there's maybe, and I'm just trying to, for me to understand, but maybe it's because the military says, listen, we're going to take your thought out of this. We're going to take your ability to fail almost out of this. We're going to feed you. We're going to tell you how to dress. We're going to tell you how to cut your hair. And you can just work out and learn. And that actually,
Taking all kinds of variables out.
yeah, it's honestly kind of a good way to look at it to where somebody that's listening that's like, man, I could go to college. And I'm not saying, you know, I always tell people like, what are your weaknesses? Like I luckily was able to financially retire, but before that I was horrible with money. I just spent it. I bought big trucks and motorcycles and all the different things. But I learned that I am bad with money and I didn't just become good with money the next day. I just stopped going into the candy store because I'm the fat kid who's going to eat the candy. And so it's almost like that with like, I'm just talking to my boys here now.
Yeah.
Like if, you know, whoever's listening at that age where it's like, listen, if college is going to be that for you and you know that you're going to go there and just spin your wheels for 2 years and blow money and rack up debt. I didn't realize the military was only 4 years. I didn't know that. You know, I hear these people that are always like, I've been in it for 18 years. I know they're going for their bonuses and their retirement. But it's like, man, that's almost like where, hey, listen, don't go here and spin your wheels for 2 or 3 years and rack up debt. The military, they're paying you too.
Yeah.
You don't pay.
No.
So that's a huge difference. One is you're going to school and you're paying with lack of structure.
And they're housing you
with lack
for
of,
a good deal of it.
They're feeding you, they're housing you, they give you a uniform. That's very good for me to understand better.
You know what's funny? I just realized because we were talking about boot camp, you know, and then college is culinary school was actually more like boot camp than college. Like, we had to dress a certain way. You know, I would actually argue with people all the time, you know, the instructors and stuff about my sideburns because I was like, I'm not going to shave them, so get used to it. But, you know, you had a very specific attire. Everybody looked the same. You had to get into a lineup. There's a brigade system inside the kitchen. Like, everybody has their part and their you know, unit to deal with. And then, of course, there's hierarchies in the kitchen. And so it's like, you know, as we were going through it, I'm like thinking, my college was different a little bit. You know, I'm like, it was kind of rough and 6 hours a day and just jam packed, you know. So
Yeah, and I think that honestly probably makes it more increases your odds of success.
Probably.
Because a lot what's the turnover rate on the overall military numbers?
It's pretty small.
I was gonna say
25%.
and it's probably mostly medical.
Yeah, medical failure to adapt. There's always, you know, it's not for everybody. So when you're in the very beginning of your career, like a commander can just be like failure to adapt and send you back to civilian life. But I think one of the other things is like culinary school, everything that you're learning, you can see where it ends, right? You can see the path that you're on. It's a very clear path where I think college for a lot of people, especially like those first, you know, 4 years, you know, when my wife went to college and she, you know, became an officer and all that other stuff, but like her master's program for me, you know.
Wait a minute, say that one more time. She went to college and military?
Yeah, so she retired from the military 2 months before I did.
So she went to school, like civilian school,
Mhm.
and to the military. Same time or different times?
So she was enlisted at first. She did 8 years enlisted. The last couple years of her enlisted side, she knocked out school at night and knocked
Wow.
out like her associate's degree. And she put in for a military program where they sent her to ROTC as a civilian to finish up her degree and then commission from there. So she had a 2-year break in service and then came back as a lieutenant.
And is that what she's doing
Interesting.
now? Is that where she's at now?
No, so she retired before I did. So she retired as a major, and then I retired as an E8. But now she's back working a government job.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so that's a weird way to think about it, but that makes me understand it better, if you will, you know, to where it's like this one is, like you said, with the structure and with the end goal in sight. I went to college. When I went to my counselor, I went to Dixie, which these are just schools in Utah, but Dixie, University of Utah, and then SUU. And I just took, I remember going to my parents saying, I don't know what I want to do, and I just want to learn. I sincerely just want to learn. So I would take piano, I'd take guitar, and so I went to my counselor and I says, how many, you know, I'm ready to graduate. I've been in college for 6 years. And she's like, what do you want to graduate in? I'm like, I don't know. What do I have credits to graduate for? And she's like, you have 273 credits
And you can't graduate, do you think?
and you are 6 credits away from graduating with an accounting degree at 212.
Oh,
Jeez.
She's like, you're 60 over,
yeah.
but I didn't focus.
Yeah.
But it was because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I was headed. It's like, I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a lawyer. What the hell am I going to do? And so, like you're saying, I think that's another good part of military, because they say you're going to be a helicopter mechanic, or you're going to be that's the only one I know.
That's actually what I was gonna do.
Yeah, my cousin was that, and so
Yeah.
that's why I said it. But it's like, I'm sure once you go into something, do they tell you? Do they say, "Hey, welcome"? Is it almost like communism?
No, so when you go to your recruiter, especially at least on the Air Force side, right? So you used to be able to come in like open general and they'd assign you your job in basic training, but most people have a job that they sign up for before they even join.
Okay,
And so you go take your ASVAB and they determine if you're smart enough to be in the military and you should be smart enough to be in the military. And then, and then all the jobs that you can get based off that. And there's like language tests, all kinds of stuff that you can do to
so they'll
qualify for
kind
your
of narrow
jobs.
it down and say, "Hey, you know, you have strengths in this. You should do one of these 20 jobs or 50 jobs."
You know what's weird is when I took my ASVAB, my recruiting sergeant was like, "You've got super high line scores. What do you want to do?" I'm like,
Yep.
"I don't even know what jobs exist. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
You know, like it was like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, work on jets."
My dad did radar.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Yeah.
That's cool, though.
I don't, yeah, I just know that's what he did, something with radar. And I'm like, there's so many different things, and I never understood, how did my dad get into radar? Why?
He went to his recruiter and he's like, I need a job. And they're like, we got this one open and you qualify
Yeah.
for it. He's like, sign me up.
Is that it? Is that kind of how, so they actually say we're trying to fill these positions.
Yes.
Okay.
So recruiters are trying to fill, obviously we have gaps in the military.
Just
So
like a job, just like a business. Just, hey, this is a business, not whatever. And then you say, how do you pick the branch? You kind of decide the
Yes.
individual. They
Yeah.
just kind of something that leads them to that. They like the water. How did you
I
decide?
mean,
Your dad?
I was on my way to sign up for the Marines.
Oh,
I was
really?
actually driving there, and I called my older brother, and because I drove past his Air Force recruiting office where he'd signed up, and the Marines were like very intense. Like, brother, do you wanna go kill people? I'll turn you into a
Ooh-ah,
warrior.
ooh-ah.
Yeah, don't mess. Just
What do they say? Ooh,
gosh.
right?
Oorah, I think is the
Hoorah, is that
Marines.
what it is? I know it's something.
Oorah is the Marines. Huh is the Army.
What is
Yeah,
it?
it's huh. Yeah, we used to do ill-timed hooahs at airborne school because we were the Air Force guys there. And,
Army
like,
needs to work
Well,
on
no,
this.
and no, you
they
gotta
hated
understand, like
us.
TJ,
Hoorah! Hoorah's like, oh,
you know, how like
sounds
sergeant.
like you got like hit in the stomach.
TJ says aren't like they
Sarn.
don't aren't. You know, I'm like that is such a weird way to say that word, but I'm like I get it. You know, it's quick.
It's funny.
I mean, you got to say it a million times. You're not going to say sergeant every time. You're going to like,
Yeah.
what's
right.
up, sergeant?
Right. Okay, so you were headed. All right, let's take a minute and step away from this conversation real quick and talk about something that we have going on. So, as many of you know, we launched our online community last year in September. So, it's about 120 days old. We have about 130, 140 members now, growing daily, and it is free. So, this is a community that has mentors in there. So, we have about 10 mentors in there right now who are teaching everything from motorcycles, fitness, finances, travel, help me out,
Mental
Chase,
health, and-
mental health,
And then we have relationships
hiking,
and family. Yeah. And then we have
self-defense,
Yeah, with Teague. He's an actual
firearms,
dojo.
outdoor cooking, travel. So these are people that are qualified, that we have vetted, that have been doing this for years and years and years in their respective fields, and they are in there teaching us about travel, about self-defense, about firearms, all these things that we have said. And it's not me, it's not my community. I built the structure, but it is professionals that are training me and others in their respective fields, and it is changing lives. I guarantee it. And again, it is free. So come on in. It also gives you the first right of refusal to any of our experiences. We're doing monthly experiences. We're doing 1 day, 3 days, 7-day experiences. You get first right of refusal. And then also we're doing a giveaway. So when we get to 250 members, we are going to be giving away an amazing adventure, which is 2 nights at Elevation 40 Zion, which you can check out, which is an amazing cabin here in Southern Utah. It's on social media. And we're going to be doing side-by-side shooting guns. You're going to be hanging out with me and a couple of the other mentors in the Genesis for the day. You'll get 2 nights there at the cabin, 3 days. And it is going to be an epic, epic adventure. And that is going to be given away free only to members of the Genesis once we hit 250. And it will be completely random. So hopefully we can see you in there. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Please like, share, rate it. And let's get back to this conversation. Okay, so you were headed there and called your brother and what?
Yeah, so the Marines were very like, they wanted to recruit me. And this was 2003. So he's just like, just go talk to the Air Force guy before you go sign up with the Marines. And I was like, okay, yeah. And I walk in there. So I'm used to the Marines basically accosting me as I walk in the door. I walk into the Air Force office. This dude has his feet kicked up on the table.
Yeah.
And like, he barely notices when I walk in. And I kind of like have to get his attention. And I'm like, hey, man. And he's like, what's up? You know, he's not like, hey. He's like, what's up, man?
Soft close.
And I was like, so like, why should I join the Air Force? And he looked at me and he goes, I don't know. Why should you join the Air Force?
I
was
love
like,
it.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
You know, like you think that I couldn't? You think I'm too stupid? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a girl playing hard to get. It's like, oh, that's funny. So you had gone into the Marines office?
Well, you
Yeah.
don't know what their recruiting aspects are. Like everybody wants to be in the Air Force. Nobody wants to be a Marine.
Well, some people do. There's a
Well,
lot,
yeah, but I mean,
there's
like,
a lot of them, Chase. You
there's
just
like
defended
no,
a whole.
no, there's no money in the Marines. Like you got to realize that. Like the Marines don't have a whole bunch of fundage and things like that. So like if you want to have cool stuff and play with stuff, go in the Air Force.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They have more money, more fun.
I just didn't want to be like my family, but then that recruiter sucked me right in.
Army
Yeah.
would always scare me because they're like, aren't they kind of the first ones? Like the infantry.
You're infantry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You know, in
terrifying.
any branch.
I'd much rather be in an airplane dropping things from above. But yeah.
Hey, what are the people in the Air Force that do that actually? That call it in? That are part of special forces? What's that called?
So the TACPs, the tactical air whatever TACPs. They are JTACs, the Joint Terminal Air Controllers. That's like their entire job, and they're one of the ones that work on conventional side. So they'll do JTACery. JTACery is not a real word,
like it.
but for like the regular Army and stuff like that. Like, so they do a lot of the JTAC work for the regular Army. And then on the solely special operations side, we have our combat controllers that are air traffic controlled qualified guys, but that will also get JTAC qualified. So they'll be out like during GWAT. They were out with all the special operations team on the ground, dropping all kinds of bombs and all that
There
stuff.
are so many acronyms.
Yeah, I know.
You just talked for like 30 seconds.
Dude.
Oh, sorry.
And I was
They're
like,
all over the way, just everywhere.
GTAC,
GWAT,
GTAC. I'm like,
but I said global war on terror earlier. So
yeah, I know.
once
Yeah,
I say it, I
help.
can use the acronym, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. You can remember all that. It's unbelievable.
It's very impressive.
So, do you have kids?
I do. I have a 11-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son.
Okay. Are you going to encourage them to go into the military, or how do you stand? Where do you stand?
I mean, it's terrifying.
Was it
Terrifying?
Well, because
terrifying for them to be in it, or terrifying? What do you mean by terrifying?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I look at my son and I'm like, if he decided to do it, and I don't want him to feel like he has to.
100%. Yeah.
I don't want him to feel like he needs to go into where I went. I don't want him to like have to live up to some family name or anything like that.
For sure.
But if it's what he really wants to do, I'm not gonna tell him no. I'm not gonna disown my kid. It's hard.
Why
enough.
is it terrifying? What do you mean by it's like scary? Like it's scary to be in that position?
I did stupid stuff. I'm sure I'm responsible for most of my parents' gray hair, And once you find that challenge and the next challenge and the next challenge, like the military is really good about if you keep, chasing opportunities and you keep passing courses and volunteering to do silly things, that there's more. There's always more that they can give you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So like and he's a
you guys are doing you guys are you're crazy. Some of the missions I've heard of are just insane, and like you're saying, you can go down that rabbit hole.
Right. So like I know who what I ended up doing, and it's like if he wants to, fine, but like I don't want him to be out there in the middle of nowhere in bad guy country doing whatever it is that he does. And it just forces you to reflect on all the times that you took risks that like you were inches or feet away from coming home in a box, and
And the world, is the world getting scarier or is it not? How do you feel on that?
I think we're just getting more aware.
I know it's the most. Have you read the book? It's called like Guns, Metal, Germs, Metal, and Steel or something.
Yeah, that was a while back.
But they talk about how we're at the most peaceful time in the history of the worworld.
Yeah, if you look at violence-wise, totally most peaceful. I mean, just we wouldn't even be at the population we are right now if we.
But it is scary.
Well, and then there's always something happening somewhere.
Always
somewhere. Yeah, that's the thing is like I called my parents a few times and my mom would be like, I wish you could tell me what you're doing. And it's not like I was doing super secret squirrel stuff, but you can't. And we're on an open line, Mom. I can't tell you what I'm doing. So
that's time wild. Totally.
Looking back, I'm like, gee, I'm sorry, Mom. Like you just feel bad about it. So like it's on the other hand, the person that I am now versus the person that joined the Air Force, for me, it did wonderful things for me. And I made the best friends in the world. I got to work with the most capable humans on the face of the planet. And it was amazing. Like some of the stories are amazing. No, it was awesome.
Yeah. How long were you in?
Just over 20 years.
Wow.
And I remember Trent.
Is that the longest you can go? Can you go forever?
As an enlisted person, Chase remembers what it was like before.
I remember him.
Before?
Yeah, I was young. I'm a little bit younger than him. So, I was like looking at him like, what are you doing, you unruly child?
Yeah. See, I was the middle child too. I'm 3 of 6. So
yeah.
Good luck with that boy.
Yeah. 20 years. So how did you decide it was time to go? Because you could have re-upped. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
Yes. So, you can go up to E9. I made it to E8. And it's just one of those things. I was in an office at that point. I was on our training side. I was the lead enlisted guy on our training side. I spent a lot of my career on the training side, it's not the coolest, but it was very rewarding. But, I'm sitting in cubicles doing high level, whatever planning and all that other crap. And it's fine and it's good. And you can help the boys out with their assignments and a bunch of other stuff. But there was a political climate, and then also all the talk was of us going to the Pentagon, and I didn't want to move to DC. I didn't want to do that to make E9, and my wife and I had 20, and we were like, this is it's just time. You know, it wasn't like I wasn't throwing up my birds on the way out the door.
Yeah.
I was done.
Yeah, it was just, so were you on base?
Yep.
You
I
lived
mean,
on
we
base?
didn't live on base.
Okay.
No. Heavens no.
That's not good.
Well, it's just not for everybody's different, right?
Okay.
And it's hard not to be judgy or not to sound judgy, but like I don't want to live on base when I leave work, especially like later on in your career. I don't want to be at work. I don't want to see people in uniform on the weekends. I want to go shop and be a normal human being. So no, we live pretty far away from base.
Okay. Yeah, because I've always seen, some people live on base. I didn't know why or why not.
Well, isn't it at a certain level they start giving you money for like housing?
Yes.
What
So you have your housing allowance, and that varies city to city. Wherever you live, that they give you a certain housing allowance. So like if you live on base, I think you don't get your housing allowance, and they pay for
a discount. You just get a discount on the house, I would imagine, if you live on base, right?
Well, it's just like the government rents it for you, basically. And then you're close to, like, there's a lot of advantages to living on base. Like, if you're like a lower ranking person with like a bunch of kids, you probably want to live on base if you can't afford a house big enough for all of you out in the city. But like, that was just never my jam.
Did you always live off base?
So as soon as I could, when I made E4.
What is what is E4? That's a time, or is that a rank?
A rank. So like the enlisted side is E's. So like if I didn't want to throw more stuff in there, like senior airman, staff sergeant, all these other rank names that are all different for all the different services. So yeah, so E4 senior airman, I moved off base and never went back.
Did you meet your wife in the military?
Yeah. I was stationed at Fort Bragg, and she was down at Hurlburt Field in Florida, and I went down to Florida for a training course after my first deployment. And of course, like I go down there, and it's a pretty tough course ish. And, I'm like, I'm going to cut my hair really short, and all I'm going to do is work out and train. And I'm not, like I was very, very focused. I'm sorry?
Physically tough or mentally or both?
Both.
Okay.
Probably more physically, I guess.
What's it called?
That course was called the Advanced Skills course.
Okay.
Or Advanced Skills Training for the Air Force Special Tactics guys.
Okay.
Which I technically shouldn't have done before my first deployment. But anyway, I went down there, and like second day I was there, met my wife. And that kind of went out the window. And it's not that I didn't pass the course and I didn't do okay, but I definitely wasn't getting enough sleep or focusing the way I should have. So
how long have you been out?
Just over a year.
So new. Wow. I thought so. You were doing the podcast while you were in the military.
Yes, and that was.
Hey, is that allowed?
Yeah, as long as you don't.
Trent.
Is it Trent?
Trent, is that allowed?
He got some crap for it. I'm sure they called him.
We did. It's funny because like our whole goal was to tell people about our community that we came from, right? And yeah, you are allowed as long as you're not in uniform and claiming to speak for the military. But we did catch a fair amount of flack. We're pretty opinionated guys, but we're just trying to help. And change is hard. We were the first guys from our community to ever do something like that, really, especially while we were still active duty. And I think we won over most everybody that mattered in the end. And we are helping recruiting now. We're helping getting the messaging out. But yeah, and change is hard. And people are like, you guys are just trying to make a ton of money. We've still made $0 from the podcast. So it's really working out. Everyone just assumes, like you start a podcast.
Yeah. I spend
money just falls out of the sky, right?
Heck yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah. Here I am trying to work on being able to, take care of his addiction to podcasting.
Yeah. It's so a year out, what's it like? Walk me through that. Is it good?
It's real good.
Is it?
So actually having the podcast, so it's funny because there's a lot of people that are like, hey, it's hard to get out. And there's people that have legitimate issues transitioning out. But I already had a thing, like I could just, I can come into my studio anytime I want to. And if the boys aren't available, I can just sit down and record. And I get to see my friends still that I've had for the past 4 years, every weekend at least.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it keeps you in that, it keeps you in touch with all of them because you're constant recording with them. Was that probably not a thought when you started it, that this was going to be so healthy when you left, but man, what a blessing.
Yep. And we're still talking to all the dudes in the community. So it's kind of like I never left. It's just, I don't have to go to work in a uniform anymore.
Yeah. So you do this full time? Are you just retired? Are you on a beach right now?
No, I did that for a little bit.
Did you?
When my wife and I both got out, we took that whole summer off. We didn't get jobs right away or anything. We just spent time with the kids. We traveled. It was pretty cool. The first time we went out to Vegas to her parents' place, And we're like loading up the car and we're going to drive out there. It's like, when do we have to come back? And it's like, well, we only have to be back when the kids go back to school. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild.
Yeah, that's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Freedom.
And then, you go to the gym now, and I don't have a PT test that I have to pass. Like, I don't have to, if I never wanted to run again, I would never have to run again. And so like there's like finding out, like it's fun because you get to make new goals and figure out why you want to do what you want to do again. And I ended up getting a job on accident, kind of.
Yeah, you did.
Friend recommended me to his buddy that owned a company, and they're doing some contracts with the Air Force. So I wasn't looking for a job, but I ended up with a job. So like it's just one of those things, a bunch of projects, but it's wild and it's a really good time.
Has it been hard mentally at all to kind of adjust to like not, you touched on it a bit, but like not having to wake up at a certain time, not having to is it just like bye?
Yeah,
Your face says it all.
He's like, I'm over it.
Yeah, his face, you can see his face.
No, the summer the summer of freedom, like my wife and I would wake up when we were home. And whenever we woke up and we'd go to the gym and we'd come home, and the kids would wake up at a ridiculously late hour. We'd just hang out with the kids and do whatever we do and hang out with our friends. The kids started school again and she's working and now I'm working. So it's kind of like just back to normal. We wake up at 4:30, hit the gym before the kids wake up for school. We get them ready for school and we go to work. So not that much has changed, really.
How old are you?
42.
42. So what's next? I mean, like 42, you got your whole life ahead of you. You're a baby.
What are you?
44. But we're still a baby. We're still in the scheme.
You didn't say we. You said
Well, I
you're a
meant.
baby.
Well, I assumed you knew I was too. Take away the gray. I grow my beard out and it goes gray. But
yeah,
we're still babies.
yeah.
What's
I'd grow a
next?
beard if I could, but
Yeah.
it's just not gonna happen.
Mine's pretty bad too. It's what's next? Like, what's your next chapter? You just kind of, I mean, you're out, just kind of seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing. So like I have a job, but I also have all these other projects, and I know I have all these friends that are also psychotic entrepreneur types trying to do all kinds of things. And so like there's a never-ending list of things to get involved in, and I'm involved in a whole bunch of, not a whole bunch, but a few different projects to, do different things. And you know how it is, you just keep grinding. Something's going to pop off eventually, and you make a little bit of money here and there and see where it goes. Try to work on your passion projects. Like you started a podcast, in between your vacation times. It's kind of joking, but like, start writing books, do whatever you want to do. But as long as you stay busy and you keep going, eventually something's either going to go incredibly right and you're going to end up rich, right? Or, you're just going to keep having a good time working with all your buddies.
Well, what a cool place to be, at 42 years of age. A lot of people right now at 42, especially in them, are just grinding and just, and it's like, what a cool place to be with you and your wife, where you're like, hey, we got some breathing room, like that's so valuable. That's so healthy.
So is there a book coming?
Maybe. Well, if I could ever finish a book, and it's not, we were having this conversation with my coworker.
That's why he signed up. He said in the beginning, he signed up
Yeah.
to write a book and get famous.
Yeah, jeez.
That was the plan 20 years ago.
I told my coworker I was like, oh, I'm trying to write a book. And she was like, she just assumed that I was writing a book about my time in the military. I'm like, no, it's a novel. And she was like,
interesting. Yeah, I was
blown away that I have an imagination.
Yeah. Well, there's that one guy that's Ryan's friends with that lives in Park City. What's his name that writes all those? He was in the military. And he writes
lives in Park City?
Yeah. And he has he's huge. I want to say Scar or
the Terminalist guy.
Yeah, what's his name?
What is his name? He's the former SEAL. He's a good dude.
Yeah, Ryan said he's a stud, but he's got a bunch of books.
that thing comes from? As him? On the list?
Yeah. He wrote the Jack Carr books.
I'll look it up because you're not doing your job, Chase. Chase is supposed to.
I don't know who you're talking
Wait,
about.
well, you can. I just Googled Terminalist.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Is it Jack Carr?
Is that what you're going to jump on?
That's the actor, but who's the author? But anyway, let's see. Because is that what you're thinking? Like military novel or like Jack Carr? Yeah, I was close. Scar. I said Scar. Jack Carr.
Yeah.
I
mean, something related.
He was a Navy SEAL and came out and writing books, right?
Yeah, and he's been going after the book thing for a long time. Everybody's like, oh, like he wrote a book and he became successful. It's like, I'm pretty sure that dude wrote books for years and years and years before anybody cared.
Yeah, that's the thing that people don't understand. It's like, oh, you you could retire at 42. It's like, you didn't see the 20 years of service I did. You know, it's just, they want it fast and easy. And it's like, that's not how anything works.
Thing is though, people don't want it fast. They think they do, right? They think that they want a thing, but that's not, there's no reward in fast and easy that's worth
I have
it.
some, I go around and ask people, like mentors, you know, I have a lot of mentors and I'll fly around and meet with them every couple years. And the one thing that they all say that's pretty wild is enjoy the grind. You know, they're like, once you make the money, you think the money is the goal, and the money's nice, but they're like, once you get there, they're like, a lot of them are bored. And they're like, I miss the struggle. I miss, there's one here in town, Joe, Joe Schumacher. Do you know him?
I know who he is.
And I went and talked to him one day and he says, man, I miss it where I was like, couldn't make payroll and just, things were tight and you're stressing out. And he says, now I can go do whatever I want. And it's just, he says, enjoy that, and I don't think people understand that. They think that, we all hear it. It's a cliche, right? But it's the journey, not the destination. But people do not believe it or understand it or something.
Well, so we tell our students, one of the things we like to say is I'm not jealous of your age. I'm really not. I don't want to be 21 again.
Mm-hmm.
I am jealous of this intense period of time that you're going to go through where you're going to make the best friends in the world, and the amount of growth you experience in like this 1 to 2 year pipeline that you're about to go on. And then you go on team and like, there's like a 5 to 7 to 10 year period of time where like it's a little hazy, but you're just going the entire time, and the growth that you go through and the hard times and the good times, you kind of come out the other side of that. You're like, holy crap. Like that was awesome.
Yeah. And I can
wild.
imagine the military too, especially with, you guys get it, like you said, with the toys and not toys, but equipment and they're toys, you get to travel, you get to see a lot of, did you ever, what was your first deployment? What did you say? Kuwait?
Afghanistan?
Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so
what was that? Was that like, that pretty wild? Can you talk about it?
Notice? Yeah. It was, so at the time, so like my career field went through a few different stages, but it was special operations weather, and then it was special reconnaissance. But like I got on team and I went through some training, and I was only on team for about 3 months. And then one of our guys got shot downrange. He lived at the time. He's since passed, but he got shot in the calf and they had to medevac him out. And technically on paper, I was ready to go. And it was like 2006. And so everybody was busy. Everybody, we had Iraq going, we had Afghanistan going, everybody was gone all the time. And so they were like, dude, you got to go. And so I went to a place on base to get my orders. I came back. All the team guys that were, in town had dumped like all the equipment that I still didn't even know how to use most of it on my desk. And they'd made a pile. They're like, this is what you need to take. They gave me some sticky notes with people to contact once I got in country. And I think 2 weeks later, maybe less than 2 weeks, I was out the door to Afghanistan.
Was you married?
No.
When did you
That would have been rough.
Well, that's wild. So just pack up and go.
Yep.
I wouldn't have thought that's how they operate.
Well, our side of the defense is a little bit different, and we just needed a replacement. We need them now. But I learned a lot. I remember I got to, we staged out of Al Udeid in Qatar, and I made friends with the guy that I was flying there with, and he had a bird. He did some stuff, and he had a plane coming from Bagram just to pick him up. And he was like, bro, don't wait for the next bird that you're supposed to be on. Just come with me. I'm like, okay. And you're supposed to like check out a country and do all these things that we didn't do. I just went and grabbed my weapons out of the storage facility, and we got on this plane and we left.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but like then I land in Bagram and I have no idea what's going on. But there's like this Green Beret dude on the airfield. He looks at me, he goes, are you trying to go to this place that I'm trying to go? He was there to pick up somebody else, I think. And I was like, I am trying to go to that place. I'm trying to look up the acronyms for all the crap in the book that the guys had written notes in. He's like, hop in the truck, bro. So we hop in the truck and he takes me to where I'm supposed to be. And then, a few flights later and a few other things, I end up, on a forward operating base in the middle of nowhere.
Is that how it is now, or is that like the Wild West?
That was the Wild West. Yeah. It's way more organized.
That's not how I would expect it. That is, that seems very kind of fly by the seat of your pants there.
Yep. It kind of ruined me too, because you later on in your career, you go on deployment and they're like, hey, here's the checklist of items, all the things that you have to do before you deploy. I'm like, I know for a fact that most of that does not matter.
Yeah. Right. Like, yeah. I've done this before, and that's, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I love it, man. So what, to sum up, basically, if people, are you trying to recruit, or what's your purpose? You're just trying to tell people kind of what the military is. What's your goal with One's Ready?
I want to give people the opportunity. If you're looking at the SEALs or if you have the itch to get into the military and you're looking at infantry or special operations in general, I just want them to know that there is the Air Force side of the house as well. And so we're also we have like a Legends series where we've gotten some of the older guys on from way back in the day on the podcast, and which is super important to understand our history. But just promote the career fields, all the cool stuff that all the guys do out there. Like, I am not the guy from my career field where I would like put up on a pedestal and be like, Trent's the man from this career field, because I'm absolutely not. The guys that I got to work with are amazing and incredible and way better than I'll ever be. But like, we have the opportunity to shine a light on it, right? So, that's the kind of things that we're trying to do, and just put it out there and give people the opportunity to, like, I'm not gonna. This is one of those jobs where, like, you can't really force somebody into it. Like, if you talk someone into it, they're just gonna quit when they get there if it's not within them. So that's what we're trying to do, and we're having a good time doing it.
Well, and that's what it's that. So I actually talked to somebody a couple days ago, and she was like, it was kind of funny because she called me and she wanted to talk about M42 Adventures, and I won't mention anything, but we had this conversation, and she says, "What are your goals with M42 Adventures?" And I says, "What do you mean?" And she says, "Well, like financially." And I'm like, "Financially?" And she says, "Yeah. What are your what do you see 42 Adventures being in 1 year, 3 year, 5 years?" And I says, "Honestly, me and Chase just went through it this morning. Wasn't financial.
No.
It was like, I want to help this many people. I want to get this many people on adventures. I want to get this many people. It's like, it was all, and it sounds like that's what you're doing. This is a passion. This is something that you want people to understand, know. And then you also, like for me, I'm getting to talk to amazing people like you that have done, all these things in their different respective fields for 20 years and get an insight into that, and it's like, man, that's what's fun about this. That's what's cool. That's the reward for me personally. And then beyond is trying to help people. And it sounds like that's what you're doing here, right?
Yeah, we're trying. I'm not sure that we're doing, as good of a job as y'all are doing. I don't even know how M42 Adventures works. And I know this is the M42 Adventures podcast, and maybe you don't want to explain it on your own podcast, but like, how does that work?
So I actually wrote a thing. Where is it, Chase?
Yeah, where is that piece of
Give me that paper. I actually, it's 10 months old. And so I says, and we have mentors in our community anyway, and they're like, what's your vision? Anyway, I think it's, maybe I have it. Oh, I have it right here. Sorry, Chase. So
It's
this,
still
I'll read
Chase's
this to you.
fault.
I'll read
You're
I
the
just wrote
boss.
this.
It's his fault.
Yeah, exactly. So I wrote this morning. So it says, M42 Adventures is a movement to get people outside, learning new skills, hobbies, and disciplines that will enrich their lives through adventure, exercise, friendships, and education. It was started to try and make this world a better place through the 4 pillars on which we build: fitness, finance, relationships, spirituality, and mental health. We forge people into a position and mindset to want to say yes and to not be a spectator in life. Our founders' lives have been drastically changed by this philosophy. Adventure and relationships are what the human soul craves and needs. M42 is here to facilitate that all over this beautiful world. So that's the M42, and then we have the Genesis, which is our online community, because you have to have online stuff. So do you have one of those? Do you have like a community where people can go and talk and chat?
We like Discord
or Facebook group or Instagram or something.
Discord?
Yeah, I mean, we have the Instagram, the YouTube, and all that other stuff. And
Yeah.
then we actually got invited to some Discord channels that we go in there and we talk to kids on a little bit.
So we created a community. It's called the Genesis, and there's 100 and what? How many?
128 now.
128 members. It's 90 days old. But it says the Genesis is the online community and brother to Adventures. Our community is global, and the Genesis bridges those gaps in space to allow our members to converse daily. It gives a safe place to teach and learn, to be vulnerable and to lead, to become someone better, to make friendships that will last a lifetime. It's where our chosen qualified mentors can educate daily, weekly, monthly to all, where they can guide us through the disciplines they have come to love and want to share. If M42 Adventures is the body, the Genesis is the soul. So that's kind of what we're doing here. I have been, like I said, traveling the last 8 years. I, gratefully, thankfully, don't have to work anymore. And I just want to meet cool people and go on cool adventures. I go to Costa Rica in 4 weeks with 20 people for a surf adventure.
Which side?
We're going to be in Jaco. Well, right below Jaco, called Playa Hermosa. So the Pacific side. And so I'm just kind of combining my passion of travel and adventure. And then like Chase is a mentor in our community. He does the firearm channel and the outdoor cooking. And so it's just trying to get people outside, man. I think it's so healthy. Get your physical fitness in shape, get your finances in shape, get your mental health in shape. and then build relationships. And it's changed my life. Like you're saying, the value in my life, you chase the money and you want the money and you need the money. But once you get there, it's like, man, I want to hang out with cool people and do fun stuff. And that's what M42 Adventures is.
Yeah. That's all my life. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty rad. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So we should do one. We should team up and put one on and do like a special forces. So what we do, like we took 20 people to Africa last year, 22 people to Africa. So we do these experiences. And I actually had a guy, have you heard of Danny Bolton?
Oh yeah, I met Danny.
He reached out to me, a month ago?
Yeah, right around him.
And they do military training, off-road military training for the military.
Yeah.
And he reached out and said, hey, we should do like an off-road military style training for civilians. And so we're like putting something like that together here in Southern Utah, where we take people and, go out and do his is, off-roading. But there's something there where it's like, I would love to do it. Like, come out, let's, my parents, I have a 40-acre place. My parents have a 50-acre place. And let's set up something, bring, 20 people out and just do a, combination of, some physical stuff with some team building and some, therapy and things like that we all need, to be better people. And, I think a lot of us, and I don't know how this is in the military, but I'm sure it's the same. We don't talk a lot. I'm sure you deal a lot with this with people with PTSD and stuff, where we don't open up, we're closed, we're withdrawn. And it's like, man, if you can get outside and make a friend and shoot a gun or hike a mountain or catch a fish, life's better. I promise everybody listening.
Yep. The best therapy sessions are always in a team room or at the top of a mountain. That's where it happens.
100%. So that's what we're doing, man. We're, like I said, we're not making any money. It's all free. Everything's free. We don't charge, which is not real common. And we're just trying to help people as much as we can.
Well, I mean, like, there's I think there's quite a few communities that don't charge free to get in, but the Genesis is completely free. There's no courses in there that cost extra money or anything like that. All the mentors.
People keep saying, they're like, what's the catch? What's the catch?
I get it though.
I'm like, the catch is that I'm paying for it and it's costing me money every month and I want to help you. So get in here. That's the catch. But I understand, we're in this world of everything has a catch. I tell my boys, nothing is free. Nothing is free. But the way that I'm getting paid and the way that Chase is getting paid is, luckily we're in a good enough position where we can afford it. And the payment to me is friendships and adventures and helping people.
Yeah. And if you have people that you can call when you need them, like that's everything. That's 100%. Worth more than any amount of money. So,
and that's what I tell people, I'm going on 7 trips this year with groups and I'm so excited. It's like I look forward to it and I know I'm going to make a lot of, great lasting relationships. And so, yeah, that's what it's about, man. So I think we should chat more. It sounds like you've got a lot of connections and a lot of experience and abilities that would, people would love to taste. I think it'd be cool.
I got the rest of the team out in Vegas too, so it wouldn't be that hard to make it out to y'all.
Oh, is that where they're at? Or you've been to St. George? Are you from here?
No. So my parents, my dad grew up there. I grew up in Salt Lake.
Okay. But you're familiar with the area. I'll send you a picture of my cabin.
Nice.
And have you seen it? Has Chase
sent him the elevation?
No.
Dude, it's insane. I'll send you a picture and we should do one out there. It'd be cool. It's a cool spot where we could do some fun stuff like shooting or hiking or some rappelling. There's a 100-foot cliff on the property. So we could do some fun like training things and then spend some time with people cooking food over a fire.
Things are out there. It's all like grandparents' property back in the day. Yeah. But way cooler house.
Well, cool, man. Yeah. Better than grandpa's.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, dude. I've learned a lot. It was eye-opening for me because, like I said, we all hear about the military and I just never really understood it. But there are some, and I know there's some pros to it, obviously.
Yeah.
I know that. But it opens my mind up into, when I have my own boys and they get to that age and it's like, man, this is, I never knew the timelines. 4 years, that's college.
Yeah.
That's college. And they can come out with better health, better manners, and a vocation, right? I mean, explain that to me real quick just before we go. So your wife was in the military, went out to college. So what she wanted something that the military couldn't teach.
No, I mean the military just doesn't offer bachelor's degrees. So to
They
become
don't.
an officer,
Okay.
you have to have at least a bachelor's. And so she enlisted right out of high school, and so she knocked
Why
out her
don't they do
associates
that?
on her
Why
own
don't they
time.
incorporate that into why don't they do that? Seems like they would they just don't wanna compete with the colleges. Probably some politics in
You,
there, maybe.
you know, something weird about when got recruited because I already had an associate's degree. And so like my recruiting sergeant was like, he's like, you come in, you go to boot camp, you come out in E3, and then he's like, and then you're on your way to office, to becoming an officer. You just got to do more schooling. And I'm like, what does that even mean?
That's what I mean, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. I thought that military was the schooling.
Right.
So you have to have an outside degree to become an officer.
That's
So like your military academies. So we do have it with the military academies that are a weird mix between military funding and also, all the academic stuff that they do because they're just like another college in a lot of ways. And so like to get into a military academy is difficult, but then you graduate from the military academy, you go straight into being an officer. But then there's your ROTC programs and then like your OCS, OTS programs where if you already have a bachelor's degree, you can apply to become an officer in the military, depending on your skill set, your degree, and all that other stuff.
I see, I see, okay, that's good for me to clarify. So, yeah, so
But to be
I
enlisted scum, you just show up to your
what's
like
that?
me. To be enlisted scum though, like you just
Yeah,
show up to
yeah.
your recruiter and say yes
Yeah,
a lot. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They don't turn anybody away?
Well, that turns some people away, but yeah.
Not you, that's awesome. So, is there anything else you wanna add to for people that know out there as far as, one, I wanted them to know how to find you, but also anything that I didn't ask that you wanna talk about?
I don't think so. Like I appreciate you bringing me on. Obviously Chase and I've reconnected after a lot of years not really talking, and I love what you guys are doing. So I'm stoked to see if we can get the crews all together and see if we can provide some value for some folks out there. On the other side, where our value is Instagram, Twitter, anywhere basically. You put in at one's ready, ONESREADY. It's me, a combat controller, pararescue guy, and a whole bunch of guests talking about, we talk about politics all the way up to, how to prepare for the pipeline, right? So, like, whatever your flavor is, hopefully we have some good value to put into your life or experiences to share, or at least some good questions.
Do you talk much about leaving and like PTSD or anything like that? Do you ever get into like those kind of things?
We have guests that will talk about that.
Mhm.
Uh, it's a weird thing because I know that at least two of us, I don't know, like, it's such a complicated issue for me. Like, it's not that I'm not like sympathetic to a lot of people that have those kinds of issues. I just have a harder time relating to it, especially since I've been out. It's you have to work on yourself. You have to be willing to do these things to if you want to get better, right? And then just like everything else, there are two sides of the coin, right? There's the people that adopt a mentality and a identity
100%.
through
Like
some
a
of these things.
victim, yeah, victim mentality that kind of go down that rabbit hole of poor me, give me
Right.
attention.
And then there's the people that are actually jacked up that need some help and all this other
100%.
stuff. So
100%.
we try to thread the needle and make sure that we talk about all of these things as fairly as we can. It's just like talking about, federal workers. There's tons of them that are fantastic, and maybe a few of them that if they are shown the door, maybe our country is a better place for it.
Oh,
So
100%. I see these these, they said we're going to send you an email. If you don't respond, you're fired. And it's like, well, yeah, if you're not there, if you don't exist, you shouldn't have a job,
Mhm.
which you don't care because you're not there. But
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I'm good with all that stuff. It's like we live in the greatest country on earth. I've been all over the world. I love America. It is the best country on earth. There's a lot of great countries that are nice, but let's take care of it. Let's get back to fiscal responsibility. Let's get back to our values, and that's where I stand. And if you don't, then you can turn this off right now and go on your merry way.
and I think, and I don't want to go on a too big of a soapbox, but it starts with the individuals. It
100%.
starts with us and what we do in our homes and what we do in our communities. Getting on X and railing about whatever is making you upset is not going to make you a happier person.
For
Work
sure.
on yourself first, and that's how you can provide the most value to the world in general. But it's got to start with you.
For sure. For sure. 100%, man. Well, you sound like a great person, somebody that I would absolutely get along with. So let's see if we can make it happen. Let's get you out here. Your buddies are in Vegas. Let's try to maybe set up a barbecue, worst case scenario, at my cabin.
All right.
And we'll cook a steak and maybe shoot some guns or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
I'll
always
just
down for
jump
that.
on some wild, Mustangs bareback.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
go
not-
ahead.
I'm thinking.
Go ahead. They were on my ring the other day. There's these wild horses there. And they're usually down in the valley. And so my property's 40 acres and it borders 62,000 wilderness BLM
Mhm.
Nice.
on 3 sides. And so there's these wild horses that somebody abandoned, like a couple decades ago. And So they were on the ring camera the other day. But yeah, it's a cool spot. There was 5 bighorn sheep laying in my driveway. That's where I'm actually going next week. When you're trying to schedule podcasts, I'm like, dude, I'm going to my cabin. It's always rented. It's an Airbnb now.
Nice.
And so it's usually rented. But yeah, let's see if we can
see Chase just running across like your ring footage, chasing the horses.
Yeah, wild Mustangs, just hanging.
No shirt on, just whatever.
That could very easily happen.
Could happen.
In your wilder days, for sure, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, brother. Well, Trent Seegmiller. So how do people find you then? One's Ready on all the social media. You said, do you have a website or anything?
Yep, onesready.com. Try to keep it simple.
Man. I love it.
Pick up some merch and check us out.
Yeah. Appreciate you coming on, brother. Have a good week, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate it.
Later, bro. Bye. All right. So there you have it. You know, as you heard in my podcast, I've always been drawn, and I have just such a respect for our military and first responders. You know, the reason we are free, the reason we have our freedoms is because of people like Trent who go out there and are on the front lines. And so immediately I knew that I would, you know, respect and appreciate what Trent has done. 20 years of service, his wife, 20 years of service. Absolutely amazing. And I learned a lot. You know, it kind of changed my perspective on military as far as for kids, you know, and my children. I've always kind of said, you know, don't go into that. But knowing that there's 4, 6, you know, you can re-up, things like that, and the structure, and I can see how that would be very beneficial for a lot of people. So I'm thankful that it's there. I'm thankful that people do sign up and go out there and protect our freedoms every day. And I want to thank Trent for his service, and also for creating One's Ready and the podcast that can let us kind of go in there. I'm excited to check it out. I have not yet, but I am going to go and dive in 5 years of podcasting. I'm sure there's some amazing, amazing episodes in there. So go check it out. One's Ready, social media. You heard everywhere that you can find him. Thank you, Trent. Thank you again so much. And again, happy Friday. Go out there, find an adventure, do something fun, say hello to people, and make this world a better place. So catch you on the next one.